Welcome here. I'm Natalie Bell, and I'd like to introduce you to the Self-Compassion for Shame 8-week program. This course has been developed over the last 3.5 years by the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion, Dr. Christopher Germer, myself, Natalie Bell, David Frederickson, Cassandra Graff, and Layla Narcy actually developed this curriculum over these last many years and over 9 different cohorts. And I'll just tell you a little bit about me. I was the director of programs for the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion from 2018 on, and then became the director of program development and have been working with Chris Germer and Kristen Neff, developing Self-Compassion for Shame, Fierce Self-Compassion, and the Self-Compassion for Healthcare Communities programs. And it's just my pleasure to welcome you to find out about this course. We have been so excited by the resourcing, the capacities, the strengths that we've discovered in bringing self-compassion to shame. And I'd like to share why. And then I'll also share how the 8-week course it evolves week by week, how each session will go, and then what you can expect to discover in the program. And so what is shame anyway? Probably many of you have been drawn to this course because you have a sense about shame's effect on your life. And in fact, most people who've done the Mindful Self-Compassion 8-week program have likely also experienced shame and have realized it's at the core of so many difficult experiences. And shame is one of the most difficult human emotions, no doubt. It causes many toxic behaviors, toxic self-criticism, hiding out, being not yourself, being afraid to be authentic, not feeling like you belong, and so many other factors that we all actually experience. And so shame is really a global negative self-evaluation. In other words, thinking that others see us as flawed, and we believe it ourselves. Something is wrong with me. And unlike guilt, where we think I did something bad, I did a behavior that was bad, with shame, it's we that are bad. The self is actually attacked. So shame is a self-attack. Now, in this 8-week course, we will be working with what we call trait shame, or that shame that kind of sticks around and makes us prone to feeling shame. There are moments when we feel shame in the moment and it goes away and we improve our behaviors or we get over it. But the shame we're going to be working with in this course is that lingering shame. And of course, we all would like to uncover it and also discover how do we work with it in a way that is not hiding from it, is not denying it, because actually shame has its strength when it's hidden. And actually the problem isn't shame itself, it's denying shame. It's not being able to work with it, not being able to recognize it. And then once we can recognize it, validate it, we can use self-compassion and the 3 steps of self-compassion: mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness, to work with it in a powerful way. In fact, what we've heard over these last 3.5 years from the 9 cohorts we've worked with is that it's an exceptionally empowering program. We will be using both tender and fierce self-compassion to be able to care for ourselves in the midst of recognizing shame, to soothe and comfort and validate ourselves. But we'll also be able to stand up to harsh inner voices that we have basically installed from our lifetime. We will be able to say no, or not my shame. We will be able to gather strength and courage to be able to see it and to be able to protect ourselves from what doesn't belong here, which is not ours actually to hold or to keep. So we'll be able to use that fierce self-compassion not only to protect, but also to provide ourselves with the kind of care and nourishment and even the motivation to be able to do things and actually create behaviors that have been really kept at bay because of our own shame. We haven't allowed ourselves to do certain things. And we're going to start to be able to do that, to create our own boundaries. And this has been actually positively rewarding. And so an attitude behind this course is that we can do this. We can do this. And in fact, we're going to take a non-pathologizing approach to shame and normalize it, to see that it's actually in our everyday life and that it stems from this desire to belong. We are wired as human beings to belong, to be cared for, to be seen, and even to be loved. And this is what we're going to discover in this program. So I'd like to share also the 8-week progression of the course, and I'm going to just share my screen here. You'll see here in session 1, we'll introduce self-compassion for shame. In session 1, we're going to learn mindfulness of shame. What does it look like, feel like, sound like? How do we behave when we notice shame? We're going to be able to identify it in our daily lives. This is going to be super powerful, actually all throughout the course and for the rest of our lives. We'll practice with the self-compassion break for shame. So we'll be already offered tools to be able to work with shame when it arises in week 1. And then in week 2, the wish to be loved. This is a powerful understanding of the motivation behind shame. In other words, why does shame occur? And again, this comes back to the way we are wired, which is we are social beings. We survive because we need to work cooperatively in groups, in families and tribes and communities. And because we're wired this way, we need to have a sense of belonging, a sense of value, and even a sense of, yes, being loved. Even from birth, we have known this. And so we uncover the reason, and this gives us room to understand, oh, this is why I have shame. This is why it's here. And also in session 2, we're going to really understand our resources for grounding, for safety, for support, how to work within your own window of tolerance to work with shame. This is crucial. We're going to learn to go slowly, to lean in a bit, but also to lean back or to let go. We're going to learn the 3 L's in this class, and we're going to be doing that all course long. And then in week 3, the origins of shame, we will understand our personal childhood origins. We'll at least begin to uncover that. This is a big, big topic. We won't have time to uncover all of it, but we'll actually get a window, a peek, a view into something that might have happened in our childhood that would lend to us being more prone to shame. All of us have this. We're going to normalize this. And then we're also going to understand the cultural shaming that occurs. In other words, we've all grown up in different cultures, and cultures tend to favor certain mainstream views or identities. We're going to understand where we fit in all of that. In other words, where have we not been seen fully? And let's identify it and actually begin to say no to these shaming messages because we don't need to own them anymore. And this is a powerful, powerful way to be with the experience of shame. In session 4, we will understand shame's main tool, which is harsh self-criticism. We're going to uncover that. Actually, we'll also begin with a beautiful meditation, the Compassionate Friend for shame. And as we lean in from our own compassionate self, we're going to discover the voice of self-criticism and see if our compassionate self can offer a different route, a different way of being with ourselves in the midst of shaming experiences. And here we see that we're really developing our own language of self-compassion for shame. All course long, we're going to be utilizing phrases, statements, words, or images, feelings, even embodied gestures and postures, even somatically tuning into self-compassion in the midst of shame. And in week 5, self-forgiveness. Ooh, this is a beautiful opportunity for us to see that where we have caused harm, we can begin to understand the 5 steps of self-forgiveness. And of course, self-compassion is a key part of this, but we will also uncover a beautiful aspect of self-forgiveness, and that is the wisdom piece, understanding the causes and conditions that led us to behave in certain ways, and really creating more perspective about where we've been and what happened. And can we make more room again for compassion and at least lean in to the intention to forgive ourselves and to forgive others even, right? In session 6, compassion for our bodies. This is a huge topic as well, but we will have an opportunity to offer compassion for ourselves and for our bodies, for at least a part of our body that we might feel shame for. We're going to start to open to identifying shame in the body. We'll begin to work with, again, a part of the body, offering self-compassion. And also, we're going to offer self-forgiveness for having perhaps shamed ourselves because of our body. And also self-appreciation. We're going to uncover our own function and our own gratitude for how our body helps us to live and thrive each day, even if we're struggling. But that here we are, functioning and showing up. So then, in week 7, compassion for our parts, we will have an opportunity to uncover a hidden part, maybe a part that has been left behind because of shame. This is often a younger part that we can begin to offer compassion towards. We can begin to open up to other parts that have not been held, have not been seen or validated, and actually to uncover what we might see as many parts that need to be held. And we'll do this from our own compassionate self. This beautiful opportunity now in week 7 that we have been building the resources, building our own compassionate voice, our own compassionate stance, and we'll offer self-compassion to a hidden part, a beautiful, beautiful opportunity. And then in session 8, returning home to yourself, we will uncover our deepest core values, what gives us meaning, and return to that meaning even in the midst of shame. In other words, what holds value and what means so much actually helps hold us up even when shame is present. And compassion is a big piece of this mindful reminder of what is meaningful, this holding of compassionate space in the midst of difficulty is a beautiful way that we can come home to ourselves. And also in session 8, we will understand what's still left. And in other words, what if, and also what is still left to do? And also, what if shame were not a big factor in my life anymore? In other words, what if we had loosened the grip of shame? What might be different in your life? And this is exceptionally powerful. Yeah. So this is the 8-week journey. We will each course we will gather together and do a soft landing or a meditation practice. Then we'll have an opportunity to share how our practice is going. Usually a topic will be introduced based on what week we're on. Then we'll likely do an exercise or a home practice. We'll have time to do inquiry. In other words, how did you just experience that? And we'll have an opportunity to uncover obstacles, what is working for you, what's not working, what other resources might be here to support you. We'll have a break halfway through the course, and then we'll introduce another topic and another exercise. There are 15 home practices. You'll have the opportunity to have them in audio recordings, also in written practice instructions. Those will be shared week by week. And I will be available as your instructor. Happy to support you as we go along. And please know that for this program, this is an advanced course. We hope that you have taken the full 8-week or 5-day Mindful Self-Compassion program. If you've not done that, we hope that you have at least 1 year of self-compassion practice based on Kristin Neff's 3-part model of mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness, that you understand that model and that you've also taken at least a self-compassion workshop. In other words, you've worked with self-compassion and difficult emotions. You've had some experience with that. This is really important to be able to go into the deeper work with shame. And there are continuing education units for this available. You can see that on the website. And I am just so excited and exhilarated, actually, to offer this program again. Chris Germer and I just taught it for a group of about 80 people globally, finished in December of 2025. And what we've discovered is that the positive aspects of this course, the strengths that people lean into, have been so revealing, actually, that the deepest way to know what self-compassion is to bring it to the experience of shame. So we hope that this will be a liberating experience, an experience that allows you to be more fully who you are and to honor your full humanity. So I hope to see you there at the beginning of our course, and thank you so much for taking the time to see this video. Take good care.